Hello and welcome to Sandbox Creations. First of all, I would like to thank each and every one who liked the previous videos and subscribed to the channel. If you have any topic that you want to see a video on, please leave your suggestions in the comment box. In today's video, I am going to shatter some myths regarding climate change. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and please don't forget to click on the bell icon to enable notifications. There is a famous proverb that says there is no worse blind man than the one who doesn't want to see, and despite the large amount of scientific evidence, there is still a part of the population that denies climate change, relying on false myths and lies repeated over and over again. The following are the most widespread myths regarding climate change, and I will explain why they are wrong after stating the misconception. 1. Volcanoes emit more carbon dioxide than human activity. It is true that volcanoes shed carbon dioxide and naturally contribute to global warming. However, every year they emit less than 1% of the total emissions of carbon dioxide that pollute the atmosphere, while human activity is the greatest emitter. 2. The effects will take time to be noticed, not even our children will see them. In the 1970s, when climate change began to gain scientific and social relevance, it was claimed that its effects would begin to be felt after several centuries. However, in just 40 years, the rise in temperatures is more than patent. The 9 hottest years in history since records have been kept 1880 have taken place in the last 13 years, and since 2014, every new year has beaten the previous year's temperature record. In addition, global warming is already having palpable effects such as sea level rise, acidification of the oceans, increasing the likelihood of natural disasters such as hurricanes, fires and floods, among others. It also causes climate refugees, the destruction of flora and fauna and, ultimately, the destruction of economic systems. 3. There is no global scientific consensus on climate change. More than 97% of the scientific community affirms that climate change is a reality and is dangerously accelerated by human action. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change (IPCC) is a group of 2,000 scientists from around the world who are independent from governments or companies that since over 25 years ago value and publish research on climate change and possible mitigation and adaptation solutions. Its results reflect without a doubt the incidence of men in global warming. 4. This is a solar cycle change like those that have happened in other times. There are times indeed when the incidence of the sun on Earth is more or less intense. However, we have been in a cycle of less solar disturbance for the last 35 years, in spite of which global warming has increased. 5. Increasing the average temperature by a couple of degrees is not harmful. Based on our perception of temperature, and considering that in the same day it may be common to face abrupt changes of up to 20 degrees, it might not seem a big problem that the thermometers increase by an average of 2 points. However, what seems like a minimal difference for us, is devastating for agriculture, flora, oceans, and species of insects and animals whose survival is tightly linked to climatic conditions. In fact, an important percentage of planetary biodiversity is already suffering from it. This is the case of the flycatcher, a bird native to the Netherlands whose offspring were born at the same time as the caterpillars, their main source of food, hatched. As temperatures rise, the caterpillars advance their egg output half a month and the flycatcher no longer finds food, so its population has decreased by 90%. 6. Climate change is a natural process of the planet. Over the course of the Earth's 4.5 billion year history, the climate has changed a lot. This is true. But the rapid warming we're seeing now can't be explained by natural cycles of warming and cooling. The kind of changes that would normally happen over hundreds of thousands of years are happening in decades. Global temperatures are now at their highest since records began. In fact, 17 of the 18 warmest years on record have all taken place since 2001. This much faster warming corresponds with levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which have been increasing since the Industrial Revolution. So, when people talk about climate change today, they mean anthropogenic man-made climate change. This is the warming of Earth's average temperature as a result of human activity, such as burning coal, oil and gas to produce energy to fuel our homes and transport, and cutting down trees to produce the food we eat. 7. Global warming isn't real as it's still cold. Global warming is causing the Earth's average surface temperature to increase. This is not only making heatwaves and droughts more likely, but it's also causing changes to our natural climate systems. These changes are making extreme weather events more likely and more severe. For example, hurricanes and storms are becoming more intense, moving slower and taking longer to die down. 8. Polar bear numbers are increasing. This isn't the case. Climate change is the biggest threat faced by polar bears. The Arctic is warming roughly twice as fast as the rest of the world, causing sea ice to melt earlier and form later each year. This makes it more difficult for female polar bears to get onto land in late autumn to build their dens, and more difficult for them to get out onto the sea ice in spring to feed their cubs. Their main source of prey, seals, are also affected by climate change, as they depend on sea ice to raise their young. This means that in some parts of the Arctic, polar bears are having to survive with less food than they did previously. Polar bear populations are predicted to decline by 30% by the middle of this century. 9. Animals will adapt to climate change. This one isn't a myth, Darwin got the adaptation part right. Some plants and animals will adapt, but not all. To survive, plants, animals and birds confronted with climate change have two options: move or adapt. There are several examples of species that have begun to adapt to climate change already. But increasingly, it's a different story for many. Given the speed of climate change, it's becoming impossible for many species to adapt quickly enough to keep up with their changing environment. And, as habitats are destroyed by roads, cities and dams, moving becomes increasingly difficult. For those that can't move or adapt, the future doesn't look so positive. 10. China is the only country responsible for climate change. Despite being one of the largest emitters of greenhouse gases, China is currently one of the largest investors in renewable energy. The increase in investment has been in response to the rapid growth of green business and the need to clean up air pollution in its major cities. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and please don't forget to click on the bell icon to enable notifications.